Can Imran Khan really
save Pakistan and destroy India?
Maybe not destroy India, but this is a pressing issue because every time I make a video about Pakistan's unfathomably dire economy, I get hundreds of comments all essentially telling me that former Prime Minister Imran Khan of the PTI party, who was unceremoniously ousted last year, is the man to right the ship. He's the man who's been standing up to the military judicial establishment who have been steering towards the proverbial iceberg for decade after decade. The problem is, if we cast our mind back only a single decade, Khan himself was the one being accused of being a military puppet. I'm not saying this to denigrate him, but he's simply a manifestation of this stifling system where every mainstream politician and party owes their power to the military. And the moment they place a toe out of line, they get booted out. But let's ignore that for now, for many great politicians in history have gained their positions using ignoble means, go on to become great. So can Khan really save the Pakistani economy? An economy that has historically never been able to establish healthy industry, always depended on imports, has a shaky currency, severe lack of foreign investment, inadequate tax collection, endemic corruption, and has survived on IMF loan to Chinese bailout. Well, I don't think he can, and that's because of pretty much all his policies. He's a populare. He has gained all his support and popularity by being anti-establishment and giving in to the people's desires, even though they're insatiable. The people love him for his subsidized healthcare, subsidized housing, subsidized fuel, subsidized food, and I'm afraid Pakistan simply cannot afford it, particularly subsidized fuel, which is procured through the dwindling foreign currency reserves, which are also being drained to prop up the rupee to reduce inflation that was exacerbated by Khan's attempts to turn Pakistan into a welfare state, a pipe dream even for developed economies. This also ties into his capture of the general anti-American, anti-military establishment sentiment in Pakistan, using them as scapegoats, where it's believed that the West wants to destroy Pakistan with the IMF austerity measures, for example, which include cutting the aforementioned subsidies that are bleeding Pakistan's foreign reserves to death. Sure, you can make the argument that it's the dollar as the world's currency reserve that has contributed to this, but the facts are, in the world that we live in, short-term pain through austerity and building global confidence in Pakistan's economy is the only hope to turn Pakistan's economy around, but selling blood and toil to the people isn't something that pro-welfare popularists like Khan can possibly do, so giving in to the mob and its self-destructive tendencies is all we can expect from him. Speaking of self-destruction, let's talk about his foreign policy. Right after he was ousted from power in March 2022, he claimed that a US-led conspiracy triggered the no-confidence vote. He claimed he had a smoking gun, a letter of which he couldn't show. This, however, wasn't the first time he voiced his anti-US polemics. Khan came into power right as Trump stopped military aid to Pakistan, which was worth $14 billion from 2002 to 2018. While the military was trying to salvage the relationship, Khan signed a $9 billion arms deal with Russia, congratulated the new Afghani regime for breaking the chains of slavery, and in March 2022, a day after the Ukraine invasion, he shook hands with Putin for a gas and wheat export deal and wouldn't condemn Russia. At the same time he was doing all of this, he was also tying Pakistan's fate with China. In 2018, he signed a $6.4 billion arms deal with them. And by doing all of this and by choosing to deliberately antagonize the US means Pakistan had no choice but to become ever more entangled with China's Belt and Road project. And trust me, China's interests in Pakistan are no more noble than America's interests in Afghanistan during the 1990s and 2000s. Okay, let's establish China's aims here. Well, Pakistan lies geographically as the perfect corridor to reach Afghanistan, a place with a vacuum of power and possesses massive lithium deposits. And more importantly, if China can access Pakistan's coastline, they will be able to bypass the biggest geostrategic weakness, which is America's is control of the South China Sea and the Malacca Strait, so they will be able to export their goods and receive oil from the Persian Gulf in the advent of an American blockade. The result of all of this is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, which links China to the Pakistani coast, which costs $62 billion and has been an absolute disaster. The Gwadar port right at the end of it, for example, cost Pakistan $250 million and hasn't produced nearly enough economic growth for Pakistan to overcome the costs. In fact, to this day, it's pretty much just a ghost town. There was an expectation that Gwadar would become a trade metropolis, but it's simply just become a seaport ready for China's use in the case of last resort. And these billion-dollar projects aren't even helping unemployment in Pakistan. They're built using Chinese companies, using Chinese resources and Chinese laborers. There's 70 other Belt and Road projects too, and one by one, construction for these projects have started to stall. Pakistan needs them to be finished to even hope to pay back China, but this is all in China's hands, which puts Pakistan in a ruinously and terribly weak bargaining position. And the cost of these projects are just insane. Imran Khan loves to talk about Western loan repayment ruining Pakistan, but forget the IMF. 70 to 80% of Pakistan's debt service goes straight to Beijing. How is this possible when only 30% of Pakistan's foreign debt is owed to China? Well, the typical World Bank and IMF loans are fixed at around 3% interest. Chinese loans, meanwhile, are short-term and are up to 6% variable. And to make it worse, China itself is on its own journey towards economic collapse, and they have started calling in these debts from around the world, which has already caused countries to default across Africa and the shutdown of countless factories in Pakistan because they can't afford the electricity because they need to pay back the loans. And the cherry on top, the wheat and gas deal that Khan signed with Russia, I mentioned a while back, has seen negligible results. I'm not saying that Pakistan shouldn't work with Russia and China, for they are geographically very close and neighbours, but Khan's antagonism of the West will see Pakistan's options of credit to start getting closed off, as well as opportunities for Western investment and military aid, which will lead to Pakistan having only one option, aligning themselves and becoming essentially a puppet and a colony to Russia and China. Khan's popularist leanings can only accelerate Pakistan's economic collapse, and he has no real way of stopping Pakistan's military establishment either. The main argument for him seems to only be that he can't possibly be worse than the current government, and while that's probably true, it doesn't mean he can save Pakistan. Now, I know this video will ruffle a lot of feathers, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and thanks for watching.